Hello, guys. Welcome back. Episode 4. Here we are. Of course, it has been a patient 1 week wait. Uh, Pretty much finished the first test. A lot to chat today. We have multiple agenda points that we were, very excited to discuss. While watching the game, we were constantly in touch with each other with respect to what's happening, what could be better, and so on and so forth. And I thought, we'll just compile a few thoughts and, probably put it here as a recording or as a podcast. Welcome, Pavan Bhaiya. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ravi. I'm doing good. Hope the same with you as well.
Pretty much it. Of course, wasn't a great last 5 days, at least in terms of cricket. But yeah, reviving now, of course. So let's not waste much time here. So what do you think? I mean, how did England play? Of course, they did play brilliantly well, but I just would like to listen to you, speak about what really went well for England, what necessarily didn't go well for India, and then I can pitch my thoughts as well. Start off, Bombay.
Yeah, it was the perfect start to the series for England. And this also signifies another fact that pre series predictions do not hold any good across any series or in any context from anybody, cricketers, non cricketers alike. So it's been a perfect start, as I mentioned, for England, and everything went right for them from toss to having best of the conditions when batting and uh, best of the conditions when bowling as well on that final day. So all in all, it was a great team effort from them. Of course, winning the toss is one thing, and then making use of the conditions is another. I think they batted really well in the first innings, and that was the dictum of Joe Root prior to the series that they wanted to make sure that they bat absolutely big in their first innings because that's going to be the main factor here in the subcontinent. So right from Dom Sibley and Rory Burns providing them with a good start, and they had a bit of a stutter there, losing Rory Burns and Dan Lawrence in quick succession. And I honestly expected India would do much better with the ball after that. Um Once they got those two initial breakthroughs. But again, Captain Joe Root, who has been in tremendous form since the last couple of test matches, put his 10 down and had that fantastic partnership with Dom Sibley, who can look pretty ungainly like his opening partner Burns as well, but gets the job done at the end of the day. And he should be very happy with that innings as well and the head start that he has given himself and his team in the test series. And Joe Root absolutely wonderful, and he absolutely displayed spin batting masterclass out there, displaying a wide array of shots right from his sweeps and reverse sweeps. And that sort of momentum was carried on by the likes of Ben Stokes and the lower order as well. Um, and some people doubted their intentions of continue to bat even in the first session of the third day. But like I mentioned, that they wanted to make sure they absolutely have a humongous first inning score, considering they lost a couple of test matches last time here in India after scoring 450 and 500 as well. Um, and then after that, once that scoreboard pressure was on the Indian batting lineup, it was always going to be a tad bit difficult to claw back themselves into the game unless and until they matched up England's first inning score or got very close to that. And I think one defining factor for England to score that big first innings score was a very good plan from their end to target the likes of the fourth and fifth bowling options in the Indian bowling attack. They respected what Ishant Sharma, Jasprit Bumrah, and Ravichandran Ashwin brought to the table. Considering they were experienced bowlers, even on that unresponsive pitch, they were pretty tight. And even though they were not getting wickets, they were not conceding runs as well. So they paid their respect to them and they went after Shahbaz Nadeem and Washington Sundar. Uh, and after that, once that score was on the board, all the pressure was put on India, and we were 70 for 4 within no time. But for the heroic efforts of Rishabh Pant, Pujara, and Washington Sundar, we would have had a far larger deficit, and who knows, England might have been was enforced to follow on as well. Although it's not a very popular option nowadays in modern day Test cricket. And then in the second dig, it was just a mere formality from England's side as to how quickly they would want to get those extra runs to set up a target for India. And again, many people were in a quandary when they adopted a pretty conservative approach post tea session on that fourth evening. But you could see the rationale behind their thinking as well. They wanted to eliminate um, that option of victory for India, so that only two results could be possible: either England win or India have to fight it out for a draw. So all in all, it was a well planned effort. And then on the final day, of course, Jack Leach bowled very well on a crumbling pitch, and all you have to do as a spinner is put the ball in the right areas and let the pitch do the rest. And then the master Jimmy Anderson came to work. Um, Even though reversing was pretty much prevalent on all the 5 days, but the crumbling pitch provided that extra bit bite to that reverse swing, and he pitched the ball in the right areas, and the pitch did the rest, wherein the ball kept low, and it behaved like a normal fifth day wicket should behave. And from there on, once that collapse happened in the first session on day five, the batting was pretty much on the ball. So all in all, a pretty good team effort by England. Um, India have a lot of thinking to do, and many pundits were predicting a very favorable result for India. But I think that this result in the first Test match has spiced up things, and we have a engrossing series to look forward to. I would like to know your thoughts, Ravi, on how you sum up this Test match.
Largely, I think I agree with, I mean, almost all the points that pretty much I think you've summed up beautifully well. Uh, of course, where did we actually lose the game? I mean, I won't necessarily say we lost the game when the toss coin was, actually tossed or something, or when we lost the toss.
Yeah,
But there's a lot to it, as in, it's easy for pundits to actually say, okay, it's your home ground. Even if you kind of lose the toss, you're supposed to win. I mean, Virat definitely doesn't have history of winning tosses and so on and so forth. But having said that, due credit to England, because the way they've kind of uh, compartmentalize their every approach, or probably every session was so beautifully designed, or the approach was so damn very beautiful, I'd say. Firstly, the way the openers have dealt, they pretty much, I mean, the first session truly belonged to them. Two late wickets, I'd say. But having said that, Joe Root pretty much held his fort when Stokes was batting on the other end. At the same time, Dom Sibley did that when Stokes was actually, sorry, Joe Root was actually slog sweeping Nadeem and whatnot. So, and also not to forget the cameos from Pope, Butler, and also Best, right? They pretty much compiled, I mean, amassed about 100 runs. And most importantly, I think they've taken a lot of time. That's something that has to be talked about, because they played pretty much about 190, 195 overs. We're talking about 2 full days, and then we're talking about a day three pitch wherein again India has to bat first. Of course, there's a lot to talk about pitch and so on and so forth, but I think it's a perfect game plan with the way England has actually approached it. Uh, what necessarily could have been better from India can be talked about. Of course, the discipline was something that I personally didn't like. I mean, right from no balls. I mean, of course, we didn't. There were no critical balls, deliveries there, but still, uh, something that's one area that I'd really like India to develop, or improve the right there. Similarly, batting as well. Uh, Rohit Sharma has been a disappointment. More than Rohit, I think, or probably even more than Virat. I think Jinx has been an absolute disappointment. Uh, of course, beautiful bowling there. The pitch did the rest, as you rightly told. But having said that, a lot more is expected from the lads, and it's quite disappointing. Let's face it. So, you know, that's how I kind of see it. In addition to what you actually talked about. I think those are my thoughts. And the other question actually I really wanted to come to you was about uh, mainly about the pitch factor. let's also not forget that apparently the pitch curator has never prepared a first class game. There were also a lot of social media trolls about how this guy was a textile businessman in Tirupur, Coimbatore, and he's just suddenly asked to prepare a pitch and whatnot. Of course, BCCI is not so foolish. TNC is not so foolish. Of course, there is some, expertise. But having said that, uh, as someone who's actually played some amount of professional cricket, did you see inexperience in the way the pitch was prepared? Number one, and also a lot has been talked about by specifically by Virat and Ashwin about the way the SG ball has been behaving. And this SG ball is something that is newly designed. Is it, the supposed to kind of retain its freshness and whatnot, but turned out to be absolutely lethal at least for James Anderson in the fourth innings, and there was good amount of reversing that the English bowlers or Nishant was able to generate some as well. So two factors: pitch, inexperience of the curator, and number two, SG ball. What's your take on it?
Yeah, that's a good point you make about the pitch curator. Yes, he prepared his first test wicket, and absolutely no doubt about that. But I do not think there was any what do you call incorrect behavior or anything wrong with the pitch. It was a typical Indian wicket, which was very flat on the first couple of days. Uh, Many Indian bowlers mentioned that it was just like a road on the first couple of days, and then from day three onward, it started playing tricks. And as you would expect a normal cricket wicket to deteriorate in a country like India, it started behaving in a similar manner. And all those people who are saying that he is a textile business owner, here is a small story for them. And I read extensively about him as well when I first heard about this curator. So he owns a
Hmm.
textile business industry business in Tirupur, which is a garment hub for India and world over as well.
Hmm.
And he had a great amount of passion for cricket, and that's how he opened up a cricket academy over there in Tirupur. But he did not have any experience on how to lay pitches over there in Tirupur, and he had to request help from the TNCA officials who had to come from Chennai or the nearby town to Tirupur, based on the kind of expertise that they had. And they would not be available whenever this person used to call them. So he had to, act according to the whims and fancies of the officials at TNCA. And that's how it, what you call, prolonged his idea of starting a cricket academy over there in Tirupur. And then what he decided, why not um, let us prepare the pitches ourselves. So he started gaining knowledge. And it's not like he has become a curator at the drop of a hat. He went through all the pitch making courses that the BCCI offers and came out with
Exactly.
with distinction,
Hmm.
and was working in close coordination with Daljit Singh, who at one point of time was the head curator in the PCA Stadium in Mohali and is considered the guru as far as art of pitch making is concerned in India. And
Correct.
then he started laying out wickets at his academy and for the various local league matches that happen in Tamil Nadu as well. And that's how he was asked to come and prepare this wicket over there in Chepauk. So he has his business, but that is his breadwinning job, and he's following his passion over here as far as cricket is concerned, and is serving the game through the art of pitch making. And having said that, he maintained good amount of grass is what we read as per the reports, and that grass is only left just to make sure that the pitch binds together perfectly and does not get crumbly right from the outset. Otherwise, it would turn into a rank turner from day one, and that would not be a good viewing spectacle for anyone. So, in my opinion, that is what you expect. In the first couple of days here in India, you don't expect the bounce to seam and nip around and have that sort of bounce. And Chennai, as we know, has always prepared wickets with the red soil. And this time they did a mixture of both black soil and red soil. Red soil, I believe, offers more turn on Indian pitches as well. So this pitch was prepared with a mixture of both black and red soil, is what I have read. And that's the thin ice on which a curator is walking. If it seems around and provides good bounce, and suddenly if India is batting and they are 20 down for three, then they are again going to blame the with curator, saying that we have played right into the hands of the visitors and provided conditions which do not suit the home team. So it's very difficult to answer the question as to what would be the apt pitch. Um, and you are in that catch-22 situation whether you want to prepare a rank turner, whether you want to prepare a green pitch, or whether you want to prepare a flat pitch that would take its normal course to deteriorate over a period of time. And in that situation, the toss becomes crucial. And so that is something not which is in your control as far as the toss is concerned. But I would say it would be very foolish to criticize the curator much. And it will be interesting to see what kind of wicket they come up with for the second test match over here as well. And coming to the SG ball, back in 2018, I believe there were reports that a lot of Indian players complained about the quality of the SG balls,
That's
that
right.
it was not lasting as per their expectations and not what do you call providing the kind of reverse swing that it should do. And that feedback was accepted by SG. And just to let our listeners know that the difference between an SG ball and something like a Duke's ball or a Kookaburra ball is the seam. Um, Even prior to 2018, the SG ball always had an enhanced seam, which would fit nicely into a fast bowler's or a spinner's hand. And as opposed to a Kookaburra or a Duke's ball, which has a very flat seam. And once it loses its hardness and shine, there's pretty much not much you can do with the ball. And considering the climate and the lush outfields in those countries, it does not reverse swing as much as SG ball would do. So here in 2018, when the feedback was given by SG, they went back and did some extra research and came up with a different quality of ball, which had a bit more of an enhanced seam than what they already had. So already they had a very enhanced seam, but they increased that enhancement further, is what I read, and also use some different kind of um, leather and material. And another differentiating fact between SG ball and the other balls is that SG is completely handmade ball, hand stitched ball, versus something like a Kookaburra or a Dukes, which is pressed by the machines and made by the machine, and the seam is developed over the machines. So after the feedback was got, they prepared that ball, and it was the new set of balls apparently which was used in the last home season against Bangladesh and South Africa. And Indian cricketers were very happy with the quality of the ball, of course, which reflected in the results as well, and they did not have much to complain. And it was interesting to see that when I was watching this match on television, also they were showing the ball. I myself was perplexed as to how the seam was coming out when it was just 50 or 60 years old, um, and I was reading a statement by the SG managing director, Parasan, and yesterday where he mentioned that it had to do with the hardness of the pitch in Chepauk and nothing to do with the ball, because it was the same ball that India used in the last home season, and we have been playing domestic cricket with as well. Uh, so both Ashwin and Kohli voiced their opinions, but I don't think that's going to make a huge difference as far as the series is concerned. Maybe if it's a continuing trend, and if that happens, say for example at the Motera as well, and the seam gives away after 50 or 60 overs, maybe then we can deliberate and say that the quality of the ball is something which has to be enhanced, and SG would have to go back to the drawing board. But it was reversing as well, and it would not reverse as much as it would have if the saliva was not allowed. In
Mm.
due to the COVID-19 restrictions, players are not
That's right.
allowed to use saliva. So just managing the ball with your sweat gets pretty challenging. And the way you get reverse swing is when you rough one side of the ball up, and make sure that the other side is shiny, and for that you need your saliva and stuff like that. So many people would view that in England you utilized reversing well, but that was not the case. India also reversed the ball, just that they reversed the ball on a pitch which was on the first 2 days very flat, and the batsman did not find it too challenging, versus when somebody like a Jimmy Anderson was bowling. He was bowling on a pitch which had already deteriorated, and you just had to hit those marks on the pitch, which also needs a lot of skill, by the way. So, all in all, I would say that should not be much of a factor, and we should not look to find excuses behind uh, the defeat. But there is something that we can definitely look forward to and consider. If it keeps happening with if the same thing keeps happening with the ball, then obviously it would need to be addressed.
So one update of today is that BCCI did happen to formally write to SG and ask them to pretty much review the quality and whatnot because the prime bowler and pretty much the captain have been quite vocal about it. But fact being, SG also retorted saying, the players have been quite vocal also about the way pitch behaved. So we'll really need to look at the situation, holistically. And there's some amount of diplomatic tutu meme kind of a conversation there. Uh, so having said that, considering the turnaround time that we are seeing for the second test, and considering we are going to play a pink ball day-night test match for the third, I don't think there'll be any change in terms of the way probably maybe a new ball being asked and so on and so forth. Have to live with it. Of course, they can whine all they want, but sadly, just can't change the situation. And so a pink ball, maybe a different approach. I'd say England definitely have their advantage on any damping ball, is what I personally feel. That's of course a different segment that we'll probably cover later. So that's pretty much where the the fiasco on the quality of the ball pretty much ends. So that's what we've been, at least the media has been telling us.
Yeah.
So next up, I think we should definitely talk about the second test. It's not very far away. So any changes? What do you feel? Who to
Yeah.
drop? Who to get in?
Yeah, before we go to the changes, obviously it's just a short turnaround time within 3 days. You cannot change the nature of the pitch that normally uh, gets dished out at Chapok. You cannot change the ball in such a short notice of time. And the only thing I would say that if the curator is pestered by the Indian team management, all he would do is not water the pitch a couple of days leading into the test, which would make it absolutely dry right from the outset, and it would start turning square. Uh, and when it comes to the playing 11, to start off with England, I think they have this rotation policy in place. So I don't know what changes they will make with respect to the rotation policy, considering they have won the first test match now. But one forced change will definitely be Joss Butler going out as part of that policy, and then Ben Foakes will be coming in, who performed very well in Sri Lanka 3 years ago when they won the series over there. And I personally think Dombes should be replaced by Moeen Ali. Uh, Figures would say he got 4 wickets in the first innings, but he
Mhm.
bowls a boundary ball almost every over. Is not as disciplined as Jack Leach would be. And Moeen Ali would offer that amount of consistency and accurate landing of the ball in the right areas as well. And we, of course, know about his batting credentials as well. I don't see much change apart from that, although I'd be pretty surprised if they uh, fall into this rotation trap with respect to Anderson and Broad, with what Anderson did in that test match. I would personally want them to continue with Anderson and not, shunt him out and get Broad in only for the sake of rotation because he's in that rhythm and he's apparently, become one of the most successful bowlers against Team India. At least in his career, out of the 610 odd wickets he has taken, the most amount of wickets he's taken is against India, more than 115 or so.
That's right.
Um, so these are the uh, couple of changes I look at. One is Ben Fox coming in, and I would advocate Moeen Ali coming in place of Dom Bess. And when it comes to India, of course, the batting needs to shore up, and Rohit and Rahane will have to step up. Because apart from these two, the rest of the batsmen, at least one, they have one decent hit in the first Test match. Pujara, Pant, Kohli all scored at least in one of the innings in their first Test match. So the onus will be on Rohit and Rahane to make sure that they score as well. And the only other change that I see coming in from them is the third spinner, although it was very perplexing when they did not play Kuldeep. And the only reason that Virat Kohli mentioned in the post match conference was they did not want the ball coming into the batsman, that is coming into the right hander and leaving the left hander from all the three bowlers. Uh, so that was a pretty, I would say, a churlish comment from Virat Kohli. And like you have also mentioned in the past, even I have had many issues with the way he has done his selection over a period of time during
Mhm.
his captaincy tenure. So, considering that he says that we are looking at variety only for the sake of variety, well, if the ball is coming in, but batsman still has to place it. If the bowler is good, then he still has to place it. Play it. You cannot take it for granted that if all the balls are going to come in or go out, it's not going to offer any variety. And many people forget that Kuldeep has a good wrong gun as well, which is very difficult to pick.
That's right. Yeah.
I would pick him in place of Shahbaz Nadeem, and I would in fact go ahead and say, many people would find this otherwise, but Washington Sundar is in the side primarily for his bowling, and whatever runs he gets is a bonus. He's obviously
Absolutely.
starting his Test career, and he's not yet in the mold of Ravindra Jadeja, who is equally competent with both bat and ball. So, and they have to weigh up their options whether getting the runs is main priority or getting 20 wickets. And I would say the latter, because you obviously need 20 wickets as a given to win any kind of Test match. So I would say, but I see them only making one change, and I see Virat Kohli bringing in somebody like an Akshar Patel if he's fit in play of Shahbaz Nadeem. But if I had my way, I would get Kuldeep in place of Shahbaz Nadeem, and I would drop Washington Sundar and play a third seamer in the form of Mohammad Siraj over there. What about you, Ravi?
Oh, well, actually, I gave it a lot of thought, and I thought the 2-3 combination, two seamers and three spinners combination should still be stuck to, and totally agreed with you. Actually, Sundar is primarily there for his bowling, and pretty much has bowled over 30 overs and went wicketless. Of course, has been unlucky with that Josh Butler, incorrect decision, and also that sitter that was dropped by Rohit. Of course, has been unlucky, but handsome 85, credit where it's due. On his very own ground and whatnot. Uh, but he still needs to. He's bowled good 27 overs and uh, had to get a wicket there. Uh, so that's where I personally feel, you know, Akshar Patel is absolutely fit, and he apparently is being training well in the nets today. So he seems to be a certain. That's what at least the cricketing circuits are actually reporting. Having said that, the controversial pick that I would see is, would we need to get in Siraj for Ishant? Of course, Ishant has been tight, as you rightly mentioned. England have respected him as well. Uh, but at the same time, okay, he finished with the figures of about 3 for 76, whatnot. Uh, Butler, Archer, and Dan Lawrence, and what the pitch has done to get his third 300th wicket. We can go and talk about it. But I'm expecting Siraj to also play in place of Ishant. Also, there's another reason. I'd like to see Ishant play in the third test at Ahmedabad. So maybe it's about also resting him, providing him enough rest to actually contribute more perhaps in the day night pink ball test. So if you ask me, Siraj in for Ishant. Of course, I see Kuldeep definitely in for Nadeem. There's no two words there. But Washington Sundar also. If Akshar Patel is fit, I think we can drop Washington Sundar, and of course Akshar Patel is also a decent batter. No issues with the left hand you know combination out there as well. So that's where I actually see I'll say a crazy 11 or probably crazy changes. And knowing Virat Kohli, he may actually uh, think about this crazy aspect of it as well. Let's kind of think of that side as well.
You,
So
sh- you
what's your view
should
on Chand part? Yeah.
you should not be surprised if you see somebody like a Hardik Pandya walking into the level.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, whichever bowling attack India plays, one thing they have to make sure is not repeat the no ball fiasco that we saw in the first Test match. Staggering 27 no balls in that first Test match. I was looking up at the
Horrid.
stats: 20
Horrid.
in the
Yeah.
first innings and 7 in the second innings, versus two no balls from England, one each from them in both the innings. I mean, there is just no excuse for any kind of no balls, but even more of a criminal offense when it is delivered by a spinner who has to just walk 4 or 5 paces to deliver the ball. And I remember in my playing days, being a spinner myself, our coach used to just drill this into our head that if you don't bowl a no ball in the nets, you will not bowl a no ball in the match. So many a cricketer, whether it's professional or amateurish, do not take this very seriously when they are playing uh, or having net practice, which has to be which has to be taken very seriously.
Hmm.
And my dad always used to say that the great Kapil Dev was so successful in his test career and he hardly bowled any no balls because he never overstepped, even while bowling in the nets. If he saw anyone overstepping, he would just go and place a stump on the popping crease, on the bowling crease, and stay and say, "Now try bowling a no ball." And then obviously you would be jittery to bowl when a stump is placed, but horizontally on the ground on the popping crease, right? If it's
That's
placed
right.
like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
So I don't know what's gone wrong over there. And I also believe that this idea of letting the third umpire checking the no balls is proving to be very beneficial. Otherwise, so many no balls were going unseen by the on-field umpires, which is not their mistake as well. You just have that split second to look down and then look up for the action at the other end as well. So yeah, that is one aspect that they definitely need to work on. I'm sure Bharataran is going to work on that along with the team scholars.
Certainly, yes. And what I also thought was probably there was a conscious or deliberate approach to actually utilize the crease there. I mean, maybe the release point, whatnot, or else 27 no balls is an horrid number, especially for someone like an Ash or even the spinners for that matter. I mean, like you rightly mentioned. Apparently, I was,
It was reminiscent of the '90s Pakistan team.
or even the 2009-10 Pakistan team as well.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a controversial statement to make, but okay. On that note, I think we pretty much discussed about what went wrong as well. And lastly, nothing much probably to ponder upon, but World Test Championship. What do you think about the equation from here? If you ask me, there's nothing that is actually changing. We still got to win 2 out of 3, and of course, not lose one more, irrespective of wherever it is, Chennai, Chapok, uh, Ahmedabad, day, night, whatever. We're not losing one more, but we got to win that the rest too, and repeat what we actually did against Australia back in 2017.
yeah. For me, it's pretty plain and simple that India should look to win the next 3 Test matches. And as you mentioned correctly, that one more slip up and that dream of playing in the WTC final is gone. Uh, it's going to be a far more challenging task for England because they have to win at least 3 Test matches in the series, and
Hmm.
if they achieve that, I think that will be one of the greatest overseas Test victories in recent times. And India have to think that they have to win uh, the next 3 Test matches, not think of just winning two and drawing one of them because I don't see a Test match getting drawn in this series, to be honest. So they should ideally look to win those three. And the third team, which will be keeping their close eye on this, will be Australia. They'll be very happy with the result that England got, but they would be
Hmm.
hoping secretly that England don't win more than 2 Test matches in the series, and the series is won by them only by winning 2 Test matches, or the series gets drawn. So in both those aspects, they go through. But we know that one team which is watching these games or might not even be watching these games is New Zealand. So they are in the final over there. So let's hope for the best. And I also think that when Virat Kohli says we are not even thinking of the WTC, that's all murmurs and just taking the pressure off and that letting the people believe that they're not thinking. But I'm sure that at the back of everybody's mind, that's the only thing going on, and they're wanting to win this uh, remaining Test matches and book their spot in the final because we know that how keen Kohli and Shastri are to get an ICC championship
Absolutely.
in their cupboard.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah, so all in all, I think promises to be a fascinating series ahead. Again, India might need to consider this as a 3 match series and win the next 3 Test matches from there.
Certainly, yes. So I think, yeah, pretty much it. That's all from us today, guys. We'll come back with another episode very soon. Uh, of course, the drill repeats. Like, share, subscribe, and thanks for your support so far.
Thank you very much, guys.